3 meals a day? That's an awful lot, especially for a carnivore, and totally unnecessary. We're eating ourselves to death in this country. We're obese, we're sick, and getting sicker every day. And it's completely avoidable. This is something I think we should talk about today on the Carnivore Science Channel. Okay, for this 3 meal a day thing, um, there's a lot of articles. I picked this article. It was written in 2020. Um, they all kind of say the same thing, just in different ways. They blame different factors. But it kind of all centers on modernization, industrialization of our society. So we'll go through this. Uh, it talks about capitalism. It's kind of like this particular article does. There's other ones that don't focus on this, but it's saying one of these structural influences is found in our regimented 3 meal a day diet. Perhaps surprisingly, it hasn't always been this way. Western diet finds its precursors through colonization, industrialization, and marketing. Intuitive eating and domestication. When Western colonizers first found themselves in Northern America, they found their eating habits obviously differing from that of indigenous peoples. So, which is, I mean, that makes sense, right? The native inhabitants would eat when they were hungry, somewhat intuitively, and through a more traditional hunter gatherer diet. This would require food to be eaten when the opportunity arose due to the relative scarcity of sources. Using similarly distorting techniques used in Orientalist perceptions of the Middle East, researchers and colonizers associated this disordered eating habit with lacking civilized culture. So the other articles kind of focused on how um, people who you know came over to North America felt they were savages and it wasn't civilized and this kind of thing. So there's some of this going back from previous cultures and stuff like that. But in essence, you'll see as the article goes on, I mean, it just describes the fact that the more modernized we became, the more structured everything became. So they began to impose a westernized 3 meal a day in attempts to domesticate indigenous groups, which became ubiquitous as we began scaled industrialization. So the dawn of mass worker migration, along with the transition from traditional forms of labor and subsistence living, led to hyper-urbanization. A combination of increased job opportunities supplemented by the rise of factory work from the 18th century onward caused the exponential growth of cities. This meant a typical daily schedule was to be rigorously implemented, becoming a pivotal point of our structure. Alongside of the advent of urbanization came mass agricultural practices and a transition towards a wheat-based diet from the 19th century moving forward to due to availability and production increases. I like to think of it as being architecture being influenced by abundance of materials and proximity. This transition saw groups developing issues of stomach issues, such as indigestion, for which the cause was a change in labor intensity, away from taxing physical labor, but an unchanged caloric intake to accommodate for labor altered. Okay, so here's your first myth: is they're saying that all of a sudden these people got all these weird, um, stomach issues, and they just transitioned to a wheat based diet. Light bulb maybe. So, I mean, we as carnivores kind of know that's a big red flag. Our 3 meal a day structure was implemented to wrap around our working lives whilst avoiding interfering during peak labor hours. And there's some truth to that. And here we get to the how public relations has affected what we believe. And I had said in the intro that it's kind of like traditions that plague us today. It's more like PR campaigns from the, early 20th century that plague us today still. Because my this whole thing about the breakfast is your most important meal of the day. My mother still was saying that before she died. So the turn of the 20th century swung certain developments. Scaled agricultural production made it easier to transport foods and expose them to larger groups, branching out on a national scale. This opportunistically allowed brands such as Kellogg's to promote their now globally recognized cereals. And we have our bag of crap right here. Um, Now, I understand at the same time that there was a need to be able to feed the masses in a way that was not something that would spoil. You had to have, portable food, all that kind of stuff. So I understand that aspect of it. You know, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think this is kind of one of those cases in some ways. In some ways, not so much, but marketing teams ambitiously led campaigns signifying breakfast as the most important meal of the day, funding their own research with designated motives to educate the masses of the importance of that morning bowl of grains and milk. And if you don't know who Edward Bernays is, you need to look him up. He was the father of public relations, and he did a real number on everybody back around that time for multiple different things. The invention of television circa 1927 also catalyzed the dissemination of pro breakfast information, along with the other two ostensibly necessary meals we Westerners need so routinely. The TV also pushed representations, now synonymous with marketing campaigns, painting dinner time as a social and familial event. So, no, we have not always engaged in such structured dietary habits, and it is largely to accommodate for our Western economic system and workday structure, with ties back to colonization and expansion of private enterprise. Who would have guessed? So, um, this is also another thing that started where people are gathering and socializing around food, which has been around for a very long time. Now, this to a certain degree has been around for a very long time, but like we're ramping it up. So not only is everybody doing a social thing, or it's a big deal to eat, but you're doing it 3 times a day, whether you need it or not. It's just kind of like autopilot. And then on top of it, we're cramming a bunch of wheat down our gullet, so that's causing all kind of problems. So um this is, a pretty good mesh of different aspects of what all of this was. But what I want to kind of look at is when it comes to cereal, and it made me really remember something that really makes me angry. A while back, um, this right here, this little logo, and the logos look different over the years. It looks like this kind of sometimes. It's all over food. It has been all over food for years, and it used to be all over some really atrocious food. You can see here Cocoa Puffs, Tricks. They've all got their little heart association seal of approval. Um, that is messed up. And they've known for a really long time since the sugar industry, you know, had all the corruption back in the 70s. It's like they've known a lot of this stuff. They took it off. It looks like they took it off some of the worst cereals, so it's not there anymore. But do you have any idea how much this little symbol on all the food is like? I mean, you're talking about mega, mega, mega amounts of money. So when you look here at they have a program. They still have this program and they still have that symbol on their food. Heart Check Food Certification Program nutrition requirements. So this is really going to tick me off. It's really going to make me angry. The Heart Check Food Certification Program's nutrition requirements for certification are based on the sound science of the American Heart Association regarding healthy dietary recommendations, including food categories, specific product ingredients, and nutrient values. To be certified, a product must meet specific nutrition requirements. The Heart Check program has 7 different categories of certification, and each category has a different set of nutrition requirements. All products must also meet government regulatory requirements for making a coronary heart disease health claim. When A product is close to exceeding the limits for fat, saturated fat, cholesterol, trans fat, or sodium, independent of third-party lab testing, third-party lab testing is conducted to verify that it meets our nutrition requirements. God, I can't speak. Most nutrient requirements are per USDA, FDA, RACC amounts, and RACC is reference amount customarily consumed or standardized serving size. Blah 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 blah. I mean, I don't know. Some are per additional or other measurement amounts, as noted with an asterisk below. Main dish and meal products do not have RACC amounts. Okay. So the Heart Check Food Certification Program nutritional requirements. Total fat, less than 6.5 grams, because fat bad. Fat bad. Fat bad. Did you know that fat was bad? Saturated fat, 1 gram or less, and 15% or less calories from saturated fat. There's that lovely thing that I think is so great, the calories, because calories are just a thing, right? Trans fat, less than 0.5. Products containing partially hydrogenated oils are not eligible for certification. Well, that's nice to see. Finally, I think enough people died before you decided to get rid of some of that crap. Cholesterol, 20 milligrams or less. Yes, because cholesterol, bad. Every hormone in your body is made out of it, and your brain is made out of it. But it's bad. Because reasons. Sodium, 1 of 4 sodium limits applies depending on the particular food category. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Beneficial nutrients naturally occurring, 10% or more of the daily value of 1 in 6 nutrients: vitamin A, vitamin C, iron, calcium, protein, or dietary fiber. Additional food category specific requirements. Canned fruits and vegetables, no heavy syrup, including potatoes and sweet potatoes. Frozen fruit, 100% fruit, no added sugar. Well, okay, I'll give you that one. Fruit, vegetable juice, 100% juice or 100% juice plus water with no added sugar sweeteners. It excludes non-nutritive sweeteners. And if you look at, I had the actual definition of that. When they're talking about non-nutritive, it's like it's something that gives you nothing. It's like you don't get anything from it. You don't get any energy, and it's not got any carbs. It's like nothing. So that's kind of funny. It's like if you put some nothing in your food, it's all right. 120 calories or less per 8 fluid ounces for vegetable juice, because there's the calories again, right? 10% daily value or greater for 3 nutrients for which a daily value exists. At least one of these beneficial nutrients must satisfy the beneficial nutrient requirement listed above. Grain-based products, my fave. Okay. All grain-based products must be a good source of dietary fiber, 10% or more daily value per RACC, and contain 7 grams or less total sugars. Blah 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 blah. Okay, I can't do it. The fiber thing. There was a dude in, I think, 74. No. It was earlier than that. It was in the 60s. I was researching him, and he wrote a book called The Fiber Revolution. Essentially, in a nutshell, people had all kinds of constipation problems. Remember that thing we just read about? Everybody started eating wheat, and they had stomach problems. All right. So instead of this guy wondering maybe what changed, maybe look at how the eating habits have changed, maybe, I don't know, dig into that a little deeper, he goes, and this is very simplified, but he goes over to, I think, Kenya or somewhere, and he sees these people like crapping like buffaloes, and goes, oh look, it's this particular diet, and they have fiber, and they're just crapping their brains out, and oh my god, what a great thing. So I can bring this back and tell everybody, if you want to crap your brains out, you can just eat stuff with all this fibrous food, instead of asking the question, well, why are we constipated in the first place? No, that would make sense. That would be critical thinking, and we can't do any of that, right? We can't. No. Because we're modern, and we're, this is modern civilization, and we know so much. We know everything. So, we're just going to, yeah, whatever. That makes me angry. It just makes me angry when I look through history and I see things evolve that didn't have to turn into what it turned into. Because, I mean, think about it. We can't, why do you poop it out? Because it's trash. It's useless. We can't digest it. We don't have a fermenter type digestive system. It's just in and out. That's why when people, the first thing that I'm going to interject here, when you talk to anybody about carnivore and they talk to you about bathroom habits and stuff, and you say, well, I don't really go to the bathroom all that much. Oh, you're constipated? Oh, it's terrible. You must be terribly constipated. No, I don't eat things that are garbage, so I don't have to get rid of them. So I don't really poop that much. You know what I mean? Like eventually, like you just don't poop as much as a regular person because you're not eating things that you're not eating Brillo pads that need to go straight through you because you can't digest it. Duh. So grain-based snacks and bars, if product use the new nutrition facts label format, product must be a good source of dietary fiber. There it is again. Fiber, 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 fiber. Okay. Milk and dairy alternatives, whatever the hell that means. 130 calories, or okay, we again with the calories. Smoothies, again with calories. And 2 teaspoons or less added sugar. Added sugar. You got to remember the added part is like a little, they're slipping that in there. Caffeine and other stimulant additives are not permitted. And what is that in smoothies? Snacks, 5 grams or less added sugar. So yogurt, 20 or, oh God, 20 grams or less. Jesus wept. Okay. I saw a guy at work eating yogurt the other day, and I honestly wanted to cry. I did, because he's trying to lose weight. And I knew what he was eating was just god awful. And I knew it's like, dude, you're gonna be so hungry in about an hour and a half. You're gonna have such craving. You're gonna go right to that vending machine and you're just gonna go nuts. Because it's gonna start a sugar craving. And I was just like, tell him. I knew I couldn't tell him. There's certain people you can talk to and certain people you can't. You have to know when you can talk to people about carnivore because they're either still plugged into the matrix, and there's no there's not going to be any kind of discussion with them. Or, most of the time they're a lot of times they get so desperate because of illness and or weight or something like that, and they get to that point where they're like at their last hope. They don't know what to do, and they're so desperate for change. They actually are in a position where they're listening to you. I've noticed that with a bunch of people, with a lot of people I've talked to. Like at some point, like earlier, I would speak to someone, and they're just like, "Yeah, that's great for you, whatever." And then later, as time goes on, and they get sicker and sicker, then they start to listen. Because they've seen him, already the improvements, and when they see me, they know, well, this obviously worked for me. Because I mean, 80 pounds just doesn't disappear and you don't notice it. And it was, I guess, I think when I lost the 80 or 70 to 80, it was 80. I think it was 80 total, and it was kind of spread out a little bit. But about a year, 80 pounds are gone. I mean, it's noticeable. So, but I don't know. It's just I saw him eating that yogurt, and when I was looking at this and it's talking about yogurt, it's like, ugh, gross. So, to continue, I'm going off deep end. Standard certification, extra lean meat and seafood. Okay, this is really gonna do it for me. Total fat less than 5 grams. Saturated fat less than 2 grams. They're trying to kill you. You need fat to survive. Do you know? This is interesting. There's something called rabbit starvation. That's kind of that's the silliest sounding thing to me. A hunter, somebody I work with, told me that. He goes, yeah, people who I guess are in the middle of no, I don't know why these people are where they are or why they're eating only rabbits, but people historically who could only, for whatever reason, like they only had access to like rabbits, and they would kill and eat rabbits. Like you can starve to death. They starve to death, evidently these individuals, and I'll have to do some research on it because I don't know exactly what incident, but um, it sounds like it would be true. It makes sense. Like if you didn't, you can kind of, I guess, emaciate if you only eat something like that because you don't have any fats. You're not getting any kind of fats at all. And it just, you get really sick, and then some of these people died, I guess, or whatever. But I'll have to dig into that more. If you know anything about it, put something in the comments, because it's just, it was really interesting to me. And I did read something about it, so it's like it's something that I actually read over and I heard from someone. And I did check into it some, but I didn't get the whole story. But I mean, that makes sense. So it's like, telling people not to have uh, fat is just criminal. I mean, because we saw the damage they did in the 80s and 90s. I mean, good Lord. But cholesterol less than 95 milligrams, because cholesterol bad. Here we are again. And I will say they have here products containing partially hydrogenated oils are not eligible for certification. Thank you for that. It's about time. Sodium, blah, 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 because, salt bad. Even though, started. Processed meats, preservation methods that include smoking, curing, salting, or other chemical preservatives, including added nitrates, nitrites, will not be allowed. Oh, but gobs and gobs and gobs of chemicals are okay. I mean, I don't eat processed meats, but better, like Dr. Berry says, it's better to eat a hot dog than a freaking Twinkie. Main dish and meal products. Total fat 3 grams or less of 100 grams of product and 30. Okay, we're calories, fat bad, blah 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 blah. I think we've kind of covered all of this. Oh, you got a bunch of whole grains here. Whole grains. Blah 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 blah. Nuts. Oh, they don't have a limit on total fat. How about that? I'm surprised they didn't disqualify these nuts for having too much fat. Um, Fish with required level of omega-3 fatty acids. They've improved. I mean, when you look at this, it has improved because it used to be so, so much worse. I mean, honestly. Really. Tricks, Cocoa Puffs, Lucky Charms, Cinnamon Toast Crunch used to have. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they have improved. And now one of the things I wanted to show you is because I want to be hopeful. I'm not always just super, super angry. Um, I mean, I am a lot of the time because the position we're in really upsets me. But um, if you see this, the Kellogg's faces protest over food dyes in popular breakfast cereal. Now, this was 8 days ago. Hundreds of people gathered outside the Kellogg headquarters in Michigan on Tuesday, calling for the company to hold up its promise to remove artificial dyes from its breakfast cereal sold in the U.S. Nearly 10 years ago, Kellogg, the maker of Fruit Loops and Apple Jacks, committed to removing such additives from its products by 2018. Oh, look at that. They didn't do it. Imagine my shock. While Kellogg's has done so in other countries, including Canada, which now makes Fruit Loops with natural fruit juice concentrates, the cereals sold in the U.S. still contain both food dyes and chemical preservatives because they will feed us anything. Anything at all. As long as it doesn't kill us immediately or really soon, it's okay with them. In the U.S., Fruit Loops ingredients include red dye number 40, yellow dye number 5, yellow dye number 6, and blue dye number 1. Food activist Vanni Hari, also known as the Food Babe on social media, spoke to the crowd of demonstrators at the cereal giant's offices in Battle Creek on Tuesday. I'm here for the moms, all the moms who struggle to feed their children healthy food without added chemicals, she said. In response to the protest, Kellogg's insisted its products are safe for consumption, saying its ingredients meet the federal standards set by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Oh, don't get me started on that. The agency has said that most children experience no adverse effect from color additives, but critics argue that the FDA standards were developed without any assessment for possible neurological effects. They were developed without any assessment at all because the actual companies submit like whatever they're adding, and then they have somebody look at it. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. The protests come in the wake of a new California law known as the California School Food and Safety Act that bans 6 potentially harmful dyes in foods served in California public schools. The ban includes all of the dyes in Fruit Loops plus blue dye number 2 and green dye number 3. The bill was passed by state legislators in August and signed by Governor Newsom in September. So, I mean, good on them for getting rid of the stuff, the crap. Studies suggest that consumption of said dyes and colorants banned under the new California School Food Safety Act may be linked to hyperactivity and other behavioral problems in some children, as the California Environmental Protection Agency's Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment outlined in a 2021 report. While there's still thousands of chemicals allowed for use in our country's commercial food system, many of those have been reviewed by the Food and Drug Administration and have not been re-evaluated for decades. Red 40, for example, was last evaluated for health risks in 1971. The early 70s is when they started, well, it was actually earlier than that, but when you started to see it ramp up was in the 70s, the chemicals and everything. They just went nuts and did whatever they wanted. Reports from the American Academy of Pediatrics align with this push to reassess the safety of artificial food coloring. I'm really happy that this is being put back in the public eye, politically. I'm not getting political, but it's like there are people in politics actually, in the government actually talking about this now. The way that our healthcare systems run, and that system, feeds the pharmaceutical industry, and what it feeds them is patients. The food system is creating the patients and feeding it to big pharma and big health. So it's it's very sad that it's taken so long to get anything done, and there's been very little. There's very little. These are small things that are done, not massive. And then you've got agricultural. You've got, because everything's money. Like, so if you mess around with if this starts to, let's say everybody all of a sudden tomorrow um realize that they're eating crap and decided to stop, I mean, you'd have collapse of a lot of systems. So they got to figure out a better way to make food healthy and nutritious, and in some way, I mean, we this is a modern age, we can figure out a lot, you know what I mean, like you can have foods that are portable and um you know get people to eat healthy diets if they know what the reason they're doing it. Like, most people don't understand that the stuff they're eating is like is a slow burn that's going to eventually like harm them and ruin their health. Like, they don't realize that. It's kind of like, a kid, if you've ever punished a kid, like they've done something and when they're little and they have a trip planned, say in 2 weeks, and they're like you know if you do this in 2 weeks when we're supposed to go to a theme park or something like that, you're not going to be able to go. You might as well have said oh, that trip you're going to take in a million years from now, because like 2 weeks is the same thing as a million years to a kid. And when you're a person who does not see beyond the veil, if you're like an average person that, works a job and has a family and stuff, you don't know any of this stuff. I mean, it's like it might as well be if you say something's not necessarily good for you, that 2 weeks to a million years, it's like they're thinking, well, sure, everybody thinks, well, surely it's not that harmful because it would never be allowed in the food. So you have this kind of approach to nutrition where, well, it's food, they sell it, they can't do that if it's not okay. Um, that's kind of the feedback I get from a lot of people who are not in this industry. You know what I mean? And even people in the industry don't realize it a lot of times. So, things are changing a little, not really fast enough because we're getting so, so, so sick. But, you know, at least on this American Heart Association, uh, they're bringing up topics like this is a article they put out, is eating 3 meals a day the only way to be healthy. Now, there's a lot of crap in here. Calorie intake, calorie intake, calorie intake, move, basically they're pushing the whole eat less and move more thing, which is crap, but they're not advocating that you eat 3 times a day at least. So, I mean, there's small changes over time, but this kind of thing really makes me mad because it's very obvious. It's been very obvious to the American Heart Association. They know good and damn well that you shouldn't be consuming sugar, and they know sugar is inflammatory, and they know it's ruining people, and it's doing so much damage. And it's only recently that they've decreased the amount of recommended sugar, or they're actually putting qualifiers on their little heart logo, and they're taking it off of like tricks and stuff. It hadn't been that long, so it's like it's taking too long, you know. It's like the Diabetes Association giving recipes for cherry pie and crap like that, or whatever it was, like all kinds of god awful desserts on their website, you know. But I hope this has been informative, and I guess I'll talk to you guys later. Like and subscribe. Bye.